guys, welcome to Goalie Talk. Hope everybody is well. This week we have got Ayeisha McFerran, the Irish and Kampong goalkeeper. Really interesting conversations about strength and conditioning, her time in the States studying and playing hockey, and also we chat about the World Cup and her successes on the pitch there. Really fantastic to talk to Ayeisha and hear what she had to say about her experiences so far. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you on the other side. Hi Ayeisha, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited for a bit of a chat here.
Yeah, me too. Well, how's life in Holland for you at the moment? You keeping busy?
As busy as I can. Staying inside as much as possible, trying to stay fit, watching, work my way through Netflix and Disney Plus now. So
what's on what's on the Netflix list at the moment? What have you got on the go?
Oh, I've just finished Suits. Watching a lot of like legal documentaries. So there's one that's like how to fix a drug scandal.
Okay.
Very good. Really recommend that. You should watch.
Okay, good. Well, I'm on my way through The Crown at the moment.
Quality.
Yeah. Sort of the end of season one. Smashed through that in the last few days. It's pretty good. Netflix is it's keeping me occupied. I think it's key to get something on the roll. But I'm Suits. I need to actually get involved with a little bit because that's been going for ages, and people have said lots of good things, and I've dipped in and out of it. But Suits is definitely one to get into.
Oh, easily. It's one you can just sit down and watch for a couple of hours, go away, have a nap, come back, a few more episodes, make your dinner, a few more, boom, season done the day.
Well, if you've got any other recommendations, let us know. But thanks very much for joining us on Goalie Talk. Really excited to have you on. We've had a few chats before about what we can talk about, and there's a few things that I wanted to talk to you about specifically. As one with your time in the States and playing and studying out there, and how that sort of evolved, and the things that you took away from that, as well as it's quite like a life development, personal development opportunity, going and studying abroad, not only but playing, and it's a big sort of shift in day-to-day life as well. So interested to hear about that. We also talked about your interest with strength and conditioning, and I'm assuming that the States actually helped with that a bit. We always kind of look to them, I guess, in a way. So they put so much emphasis on strength and conditioning that it seems to be that's something that you've taken away from that as well. And then I want to talk about the World Cup in 2018, which was quite a big and successful tournament for you, not just personally, but the team did really well as well. And just want to sort of hear what you took away from that as a learning experience as well. So so the first thing really was I wanted to talk about the States. Like what was it that made you want to go out there? Like how did that all come about?
I think it first started when I was kind of 15. It's like you're in school, you're doing your GCSEs, and you're kind of figuring out where am I going to go for uni, what am I going to do. And I always like Ireland, the UK. It's okay. Everyone lives in their own bubble, and I always kind of wanted to get out and get away. So I like looked up the thought of going to America. Just kind of dabbled with it initially because I was like, oh yeah, like go to America, that'll be class. You're a 15-year-old and you think you'd be unreal going over there. So I kind of looked into that a bit more. Signed up with a company up in Scotland who kind of helped me with that. And just thought, like, initially, why not? Like, so many people go to kind of college or university in the UK and come out with thousands of pounds of debt, which wasn't something I was really keen on if I thought that my hockey could maybe get me a free education elsewhere. So America kind of really drew that to me, just because fingers crossed I could have got a free scholarship, and I did. I ended up coming out with no debt at all, which was nice, being 22-year-old sitting here debt free. Like
no, that's reason enough to go, more than anything else, I guess. But what was it as much the hockey as the studies, or was it more one or the other?
No, I think it was definitely a combination of both. I knew going to America there wasn't going to be the same kind of level of quality week in, week out. But I also knew that the kind of study side of things, because the system's a little different over there. So in the UK or Ireland or even in Europe, you have to go in straight away knowing what you want to do. And I had no clue where I was going to go with my life. Absolutely not a baldy. Still don't, but that's fine. So then,
I don't think anybody does. So you're
yeah,
not alone there.
yeah, we'll figure it out as we go along. That's where I'm at. But yeah, so over there it was kind of, you can go in your first 2 years, you don't have to major, and then your third and fourth year, you find your route that you want to go, and that's where you kind of decide what you want to do. So I think for me, it was definitely kind of like having that flexibility, but also I was just looking for a way to get out of Ireland, essentially. I had a bit of a rough upbringing. I was in foster care, and I just thought, you know what, why not go? So I ended up going to America. Well, I need to backtrack a bit. I was going to go to America, and then that kind of fell through. I agreed to go to college, and then I got pulled into the national team, and then things happened here or there. Took a gap year, but one of the colleges got in contact with me again, and I was very fortunate that they kind of offered me that spot and kind of spoke to me about what they could offer, and not just kind of the hockey side of things, but also like academics, but also personal development. There was a lot of kind of leadership courses going on with the college. There was a lot of committees, which I was involved in as well, which kind of gave you that opportunity to grow, not just as an athlete or with studies, but as kind of a person, which kind of appealed to me as well.
Great. I mean, there's, were there any moments during that time you thought, oh, this is potentially a wrong decision, or times when, and was it always like, yeah, this is definitely the right thing to do, or were there any moments of doubt?
There was probably more moments of doubt than I actually think. Like now looking back at it, I remember one. There was specifically our head coach at the time, and it was just after the Rio qualifiers, and he was leaving to go back to New Zealand, so we got a new head coach in. And then I thought, oh no, if I go to America, will he just cut me from the program? Because I had this work from the previous coach. So I had that going on in my head. Then I was like, well, if I go over here, then I'm gone for 4 years. Like, I'm not going to be involved with the national team at all. I won't have any connections there. And then there's also kind of the aspect of, well, I'm leaving my friends and family behind. I'm going to a new place to start something completely new. Is this going to be worth it in the end? And so there was a lot of kind of doubts, little doubts like that. Another one was leaving behind my dog. That was very tough.
Oh, nightmare. What? I'm assuming they're still alive?
Oh, yes. No, he's still alive. He's good.
Okay. Good.
Doing well.
What's he called?
Jeb.
Jeb. Okay. Is
Yeah.
Is he with you in Holland at the moment?
No, unfortunately not. He's back at home in Larne with my dad. Becoming a little old man. He's a little spoilt, but sure, that's the best way to keep your dog, isn't it?
To be. I think, yeah, if I was reincarnated, I think I'd quite like to be a dog. I think that's a good life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially now that everyone's home.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, very well looked after.
Yeah.
So with that, those moments that, was there any specific moments you like needed to reach out to anybody, and make sure that what you were doing, something was helping reinforce that you were going in the right sort of direction? Were there any moments like that at all?
Yeah, definitely. There was before I even went. So my manager for the national team, she was also one of my coaches at a club at Pegasus, and she understood kind of everything, like where I'd come from, what I went through, kind of growing up, and she's very good at kind of seeing the bigger picture, and that kind of helped reinforce me that I'm not, at that time, you're 18, all you want to do is play hockey. I think everyone's probably the same, no matter how much you're into it. But so then I was speaking to her about it, and she helped kind of just see everything for what it is. She didn't make it too big or too small. It was just very much, well, if you go here, this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to do. This is what you'll come away with. If you stay in Ireland, this is what you'll get. If you go to the UK, if you go to England, again, same thing. So it was very beneficial just kind of listening to that side of things and just hearing it from someone else, because like in your own head you always just make up your own decision, and you're like, you'll listen to some stuff but you won't take it fully in. So she's very much like very clear and just laying it out, and that really helped me kind of make my decision where I was going to go with uni, whether that was to America, Ireland or the UK. And yeah, fortunately it worked out that I ended up going to America in the end.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing for that as well is having the right relationship with somebody that's going to give you that information, not only that you need, but that you trust as well, and you can value. And I'm sure you probably had conversations with other people that may have said the same thing, but possibly wasn't put in the same way, or you didn't trust quite as much because you had that relationship with somebody that was in the right place, right time, right sort of person and you connected with, and like, okay, that all makes sense, and I can trust what that person's saying. Do you think that was quite important? It needed to be from the right person?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all kind of have those people that we can kind of take anything from, whether good, bad, ugly. You never know what's going to come out of their mouth most of the time, but what they tell you, you value and you respect. And with Arlene, so my manager, I really did. She kind of opened my eyes with a lot of things. And yeah, I think it's very important, not just with hockey or making decisions about that, just in general life, you have those maybe 1, 2, 3 individuals who, you know, you can go to and like you value what they're going to say, whether it is good or not. And she was really one of those people for me as when helping making that decision of going over or not, just because she was able to be just so calm and clear about it. She didn't kind of butter it up, which is kind of what I needed to hear at the time.
Yeah, I think that's amazingly mature as well for an 18-year-old that's thinking about going to this sort of, and actually taking stuff like that on board. I mean, from personal experience and experience with other athletes and other goalkeepers that decided to do something else, like go and play abroad, it's all got to be done for the right reason. And I think listening to people that have that experience, see the bigger picture, is fundamental. Like, you really need to take all that stuff on. I do believe that you're only going to take that on if it's from the right person, as well. And I think, like I said, there has to be a real purpose to it. I mean, you can see the obvious drive that you've got to improve your hockey, and that has been like the main thing that's taken you to America, taken you to Holland. You're still trying to work out what the other side of it is. But the other side of it we were speaking about before. I mean, one thing I do actually want to ask you before moving on maybe to the strength and conditioning side of things is about what you took away from your time. Because, I mean, you mentioned it earlier as well about the system's different there in terms of the hockey. Like, you have a much smaller window for a season, don't you?
Yeah, so the season over there runs from end of August to kind of first week of November, and that even depends if you make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So it's a very intense period. You're training 6-7 days a week, 2 games at a weekend, and you're traveling all over the country. So it's a very intense period, but the rest of the time, it's not like you. So you have that hockey intense period for what 3.5, 4 months, including preseason, and then the rest of the time it's different. So yeah, that was hard. Like, it's going into spring, it's a lot of running, more running, some lifting,
and you really
running again.
Don't you? You're a big fan of running, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely love it. Yeah, just go out every day, a few casual miles here and there. Love it.
Just like every other goalkeeper, love running. Absolutely not. Yeah. With that period of time, like, how much actually time do you get to study? Like, is that still quite a heavy study period for you as well? Do you have to try and manage those two really closely, or is it more offset during the time where you're not in the season?
No, it's still very much a study time, because it's the middle of your semester. Like, you're playing the whole way through your kind of first semester of the year. A lot going into kind of your sophomore, junior, senior year, you try and manage it a little more. So the minimum credits you have to take to stay kind of eligible is 12. So once you kind of get older in your career, you're kind of smarter about it. So a lot of the times people take maybe 15 credits. That's maybe 5 classes. Yeah, 5 or 6 classes. But in your spring, because you're not traveling everywhere during the season, you can take more. So a lot of people would take maybe 18 credits, some even more, which that's whenever you kind of get your harder classes done, where you kind of have to sit for hours and just kind of study, go to class, things like that. But there still is that element of, you have training every day. 7 o'clock in the morning for me. We had 7 o'clock in the SSC building, off 2 hours, 3 hours. There you go, and then you're straight to class after that. So it's still a heavy period, but you try and manage it as best you can with the classes you pick. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a really intense period of time. Did you sort of, last question that I've got for you about them? I mean, I do think we could probably talk about other bits of it as well. But the one thing, like, what did you take away from it more than anything else? Were there a couple of things you're like, that's what I really got out of going to America. Lots of different life skills. Like, what was it for you that you learnt the most?
I think it's hard to kind of pinpoint one, but I think for me it was the main thing would have been having to grow up. You're kind of this 18-year-old foreigner going over to America.
You need to grow up. That's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, no, we're still working on it. Yeah, but yeah, you're this kind of 18-year-old going over to America. Like in high school, you've kind of everything spoon fed to you. Like the teachers have your work like ready for you. You just hand it in, blah blah blah, things like that. Even at home, a lot of the time, like I know a lot of parents who will still do stuff for their kids now, even 22, 23, 24. But for me, if like going away, you have to grow up. You become more independent. You're having to kind of set your own routines, figure out schedules. Time management is huge. So it's just becoming more mature within yourself and just understanding that there's more things to do than just focus on yourself. And I think that was one thing that I really kind of did take away from it, is just kind of growing up and learning what I have to do to kind of survive in the outside world, and not having everything kind of spoon fed to me, which at times is nice, but you just kind of have to get on with it most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think in any path, becoming an athlete like you are, and the rest of the career that you've got ahead of you as well, it's fundamental that you have the support in the right way, but also you need to be able to lead your own way, lead your own path, and do things yourself without worrying that because at some one you're in the States and you're in Holland, you'll always have the contact, but you need to be able to do things yourself. And I think things like self-motivation, organizing yourself from day to day means that becomes a lot easier, even if it is I can put a wash on, or I can get from A to B on public transport without having a meltdown. It sounds really simple, but it's that will lead to then the next thing. You'll be able to manage your time. When do I go to the gym? When do I eat? When do I do this? When do I do that? What's my training schedule look like? Having a bit of forethought about things as well. So, okay, cool, right. Well, the America side of things sounds really interesting, and also sounds like it was a massively valuable period of time for you. The one thing that I also wanted to talk to you about was the strength and conditioning side, because when we've spoken before, you were talking a fair amount about how you quite enjoy that side of things, like you value it as well. Like what is it about it that interests you, and is there anything? And the question attached to that is, like you've said to me before, which I'd done a little bit more sooner. Like, why is that? And first question, what do you like about the S&C side of things?
So my interest started again when I was in America. So my degree is exercise science, essentially, in other words. And so I took classes initially just to kind of see if I was interested in it and whatnot. And one of the classes which I took was biomechanics, which is, in simple forms, just understanding how the body moves. So it's not just you're standing up, it's what is your body doing to make you stand up, to allow you to stand up.
Yeah, so I did a module at university on biomechanics, and I'm got a bit of a spread of modules with the course that I did at university, and I definitely probably would have listened a little bit more if I went there several years later. Instead of then. But I do remember a bit of biomechanics testing my mental ability to concentrate with things like laws of inertia and like all those bits. And anyway, I can't even explain it now because I can't really remember, but I didn't understand it then either. Probably would understand a little bit more now. So kudos to you for knowing probably a little bit more about it.
Yeah. And so again, with being an athlete, not just in America but anywhere, you do gym programs, you do kind of the simple S&C. Like even your neighbor could be doing an S&C program in their living room, especially now because you can't go anywhere. Why not? And so my first year I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't care about squatting 100 kilograms. I don't care about like bench pressing 50, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then so once I started taking those classes, I was like, oh, like this is how I'm actually doing it. Like this is how I'm going from A to B. Like how I'm like putting the squat bar on my shoulders, then go down and then come back up. So it's that kind of initial, like, oh, right, this is how this is how I'm doing it. So it was kind of just understanding, I think, and why I'm doing it was where my initial interest came from. And then further, I got on into the course, like I understand it even more. So then I was able to kind of pick up different aspects and put it with my hockey. Yeah. So whether that be in the gym or on the pitch, like what kind of different systems I'm using, how am I getting my energy, things like that, how am I moving from here to here, like things like that. So a lot of that kind of came in together, and I really enjoyed just understanding why my body is doing it and being able to relate it kind of with my hockey as well, which was quite interesting, but definitely challenging.
Yeah, no, I bet, and I think that's where I think a few people struggle with it, especially at that age, is that they working out the why, like why am I doing this for? I just have to trust my coach. Mm-hmm. That they know what they're talking about for me to be able to then go, right, this is why I'm doing that. But with a little bit more context, you probably buy into it some more, like okay, well, this is valuable for me now I understand why. So you probably just get into it some more, which I think is it's a big part of everything, really. You've got to work out why you're doing something. But specifically when it comes to quite boring things like lifting weights and that sort of stuff, is I think you need that buy-in, you need that motivation to be able to do something, to see how that's going to help you on the pitch and transfer into some better performances as well. You mentioned before about injury as well. Like, obviously strength and conditioning is quite an important part of being able to stay on a pitch and be injury free. Like, you've had a few injuries in the past, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. And there are injuries that I definitely could have prevented if I'd done the correct measures sooner. So like, what year are we in? 2020.
2020, yeah.
So the Europeans was last summer. Wow, I really had to think here.
Time's flown by since then.
Yeah, flown by. So halfway through summer last year, so I just come back from America, and things change in America your senior year. Once you're done with hockey, you're done. And so I didn't really take care of myself or do, like, as you kind of said, the boring stuff, because I didn't have kind of the buy-in, because I wasn't with the team over there. I was just finishing my year, kind of having a bit more fun than I probably should have. Things happened, and then so I didn't do what I need to do, and that's the boring stuff. So that comes down to just simple prehab, which are like preventative measures. So like a lot of the times when you go out onto the pitch, I know whenever I was younger, I hated warming up. I still hate warming up to this day. It's the most boring part of hockey. But I believe it's very important, whether that's from a mental aspect or physically preparing your body. I find it, for me, a combination of both. It was actually quite interesting listening to Davey talk about how his warm-up's different. But again, that like he does what he needs to do, and he shortens it down into a 12-15-minute period for him. Yeah. Because that's what he does. He's also a little bit older, so he can't do that. But a lot of times whenever I was younger, so I would just sit on out to the pitch, put my gear on, and just off I cracked, like jump in the goal and just have people hit balls at me, and off I went. But that, as a result, because I didn't like warm up beforehand or even stretch after, or in the evenings, or just in my spare time, just 5-10 minutes of stretching, I ended up tearing my quad last summer, and it was a pretty bad tear just before Europeans going into it. So I wasn't physically like playing well. One, I wasn't physically as capable as what I know I can be, and which then resulted in me limited time before the tournament being on the pitch, and then also reduced, like my standard of playing wasn't where I know I can be in the tournament. So there's a lot of aspects where it like kind of comes together, which then kind of prevented me playing as well as I could have. But it's the boring stuff which could have done that, and if I had done it, I probably would have been fine.
Yeah, but it's the learning, isn't it? I think with any athlete, you've got to understand you're constantly pushing your body to the next level, and then you've got to essentially find where the limit is going to be somewhere at some point. But there's limit in terms of what you can push, what you can lift, what you can, and the stresses and strains that you put on your body. But also, if you're not managing that well enough, and there's always that limit is going to become a bit sooner. But there'll probably be things you do in a couple of years' time that you'd wish you'd do differently as well. And I'm sure that's the same for other goalkeepers and other athletes too. Everybody's constantly learning about their bodies because they'll change over time as well, and different periods of exercise and different blocks of training and all that sort of stuff. I do think that's really important. One of the podcasts that we have done on strength and conditioning as well is looking at sort of the younger, or the difference between what looks like for maybe a 12, 13, 14-year-old that's playing sport or specifically goalkeeping and wants to add a strength and conditioning program to their week. Whether you want to call it strength and conditioning or not, or whether you just want to call it, I'm going to do something that's going to help me physically, whatever you want to call it. And then what an elite athlete does, like yourself, to be able to then stay on the pitch, be able to perform well on the pitch, and do all the things that you need to do, having actually got to a point where your body is pretty much developed as much as it needs to at the moment. If that makes sense. So that was a really interesting conversation about the strength and conditioning side of things as well, and having the conversation with you now about it to kind of reiterate some of those things, like managing your own body to be able to do what you need to do on the pitch, but also prevent injury too. So for me, that's a vital part of it. But there's also like a learning journey. Well, you need to find out. But I think there's enough information out there that people can get a hold of about how to minimize the risk of actually making too many mistakes. Yeah, there'll be a point where something will happen, you'll tear a quad, or you'll have a little, especially with goalkeepers, there'll be something to do with your hip flexor, something to do with your hamstrings, something to do with your groin. There's been even like impact injuries as well. So how are you taking care of your foot? If you're getting hockey balls hit at you every single day, your kit for whatever reason is worn out, because that has a bit of a lifetime as well. Does that come into consideration too, and all these sorts of things that go around it? So for us, strength and conditioning is a really important element of it, and I think it's really, like I said, it's been really interesting hearing what your experience has been around it as well. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and you're probably going to blush a little bit now, because I think the World Cup in 2018 was a pretty good experience, surely.
Yeah, it was all right. I played a bit of hockey.
Good crack.
Yes, saved some shots, played some decent players. It was average, like your average day.
And, look, I mean, like, I've been around the bush. Like, 22 years old, weren't you? 2018.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working out the maths.
Yeah.
Well, the years go by. You're 24 now, aren't you? And
yes, real mature here.
Yeah,
24-year-old.
Real mature. But for 22-year-old to get, firstly, to be first choice for the country in playing in the World Cup as a 22-year-old is a massive achievement, I think. And that alone is fantastic. To play well is another thing. To get goalie of the tournament is another thing as well. And obviously you guys did well as a team too. What was like the main thing? Like, can you remember it? Can you recall it? Are there things you're like through the tournament you're like, oh, things are going pretty well. Like, this is cool. This is how it just should be. Or were there other thoughts going in your head, or can you not remember it?
I can and I can't. It's kind of like one of those things. Like, now that, like, once I start talking about it, I like remember it pretty vividly. Like, I can see myself standing in the goal, experiencing it. Do it like at one point after I was watching video, and I was like, "What on earth am I doing there?" Because it was like I was kind of in this little bubble of it all. Yeah, it's just like I can remember each game, like, which I'd be quite a hockey nerd like that, and I would kind of remember really weird things. Like, I remember like turning around and like seeing a bunch of hockey folk from Ireland in the India game, just standing cheering, going crazy. And I'm like, Jesus, I made the trip over. Would you look at that? We get some supporters because, like in Ireland, like in Ireland, we're so used, like before the World Cup, like hockey, like we unfortunately just wasn't what it is now, and it's still growing, which is huge for the sport. But like we would go and play an international game, and we'd maybe have 20 people, a couple of dogs, and I know a stranger walk past with a coffee, and that's about it. And that's unfortunately what we were used to. So to go from kind of that into the World Cup, where the first game against USA was electric. Like we knew going into it, like we played them maybe a handful of times kind of the year, 2 years before. And so like we were very confident in what we needed to do to beat them. But yeah, just there's little glimpses of it here and there where I just like even now, like I've got goosebumps even thinking about it, just because it was so electrifying and kind of changed the sport in Ireland, which is crazy to think still.
Yeah, but that's amazing and a fantastic legacy to have as a team. But yeah, like I said, as a 22-year-old, I think there's like you kind of must have been soaking all of that up, and have you had time to like even think too much about reflecting on the experience, like what went well, what didn't well? Is there anything that you were like, I could have done that better, could have done this better? Like, is there anything specific in there that you reflect on?
I think overall, like yes, definitely. They're like I'd be quite hard on myself. Like I don't want just to make the save. I want to make the perfect save, which in goalkeeping is 90% of the time very unrealistic.
Yeah.
So that's
trying to catch the perfect wave to your surfer.
Exactly.
I think it could take you a lifetime.
Yeah, so we're still working on that and bringing down the standards a little bit. But I think one thing I was kind of like looking back at it with my goalie coach, Nidge from home, was just kind of how I managed myself. Like when I was doing well, I was so high, I was so electric, I was pumped, I was fired. But when I didn't make the perfect save, or my warm up didn't go good, or I didn't play the game as well as I thought I could, or read certain situations as well, I was low. So I was like going from like here to here to here to here, and it's trying to, like in goalkeeping, it's trying to manage that. You kind of have to scrap the last save, good, bad, ugly, who knows. Kind of the last game, the last kind of whatever happened situation, and you have to move on because a lot of the times you end up dwelling on that. And I think there was definite aspects in games where kind of that was happening. Whenever we played England, kind of my first save, it was a shot against Alex Danson, and I would say I was quite lucky to make that save because I wasn't set. I was kind of half moving, and then I was stuck on my left foot, and then I was having to
talk us through it. I can't visualize it now. Talk us through it. Where was the ball? How did it get in the D? How did you save it?
Okay, so Alex Danson doing what Alex Danson does best, skidding about 4 players because that's her. So the main stance, so the one with the dugouts, is on my left hand side as I look at it. So I'm in the goal. She's coming down.
It's a good start in the goal.
Yeah, I'm in the goal. Ideal place for me, like. So she's coming down the left hand side, kind of cuts in, puts it onto her reverse, and she goes near post. But I wasn't expecting it because she'd come along the baseline, then got kind of pulled up in, and so I was kind of half moving, but I wasn't set. So she had done like her trigger for us as goalkeepers. The stick comes up, she's going for the shot, and that's kind of our key to stop moving. But I was still kind of half. I don't want to say complacent, but I was. Let's be realistic. I was just because I was like, she's never going to score like past me at near post. Like no, like I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
But that kind of caught me off guard because she went to my near post. So I was stuck on my left foot. I was like this, and then I had to kind of kick across myself to save it. And I ended up almost hitting the umpire, which was kind of half funny, but sure, it's just part of the game.
You got to keep them inside.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, I'm really good at that. Trust me.
Wasn't aiming for them at all.
Oh, not at all. So yeah, things like that. So after that, then I remember like, oh, what on earth? Like, why am I still moving? Why did I just kick across myself? How it could have been so easy. I could have just done left foot. So then I was like, I don't want to say I was annoyed at myself, but I was remembering that. I was like, right, don't do that. And then, so for the next kind of couple of minutes, so that kind of then resulted in how I was speaking to my defenders. I was probably more aggressive than what I needed to be, but it was because I was annoyed at myself. So then I was kind of at that low kind of negative point. And then probably a couple of minutes later, I then made a good save, and I was like, all right, okay, well, yes, I can do this. So then it's like trying to manage going from like the negative, like I made a bad save, I wasn't technically perfect, to then going, right, okay. So it's just trying to, for me, it was I still am learning about trying to keep that level kind of in the middle and not get too high, not get too low. I think that was probably the biggest thing that I kind of took away from the World Cup as a whole. Yeah, it's a challenge though, but sure, you go with it and see.
Yeah, and the more tournaments you end up playing in, the more you'll learn how to deal with that and find your own ways of making that more consistent. And yeah, but what an experience! That just must have been brilliant. I do remember watching some of the games and thinking, this goalie knows what she's about. Like, you can see through the movement, and I'm not just paying a compliment because you could see that. And there were certain saves, and there's one in particular where you made a save towards your far post. I can't remember who it was against. I think you were in the goal, where the dugouts are on your right, and you lunged to your right. Do you remember who that was against? There's a far post. And it was really good because your line of attack was excellent. Your balance was excellent. You covered that goal like I'd say probably 70% of that time. That's a goal, and it was I think a crucial time in a pretty important match. India. Okay.
Yeah, group game India. We won 1-0. Yeah.
Okay, so and it's moments like that where goalkeepers, and I will keep reiterating this to most people, is that valuing a good goalkeeper is really, really important. And there are moments like those in games that win you games as well. And it was just that a little clip of one little moment in your tournament where there was a lot of control, a lot of poise, knowing what you're about, and it was just it was one of those saves that could be made to look really, really difficult. Right, you could have ended up sprawling, maybe saved it with the toe, underside of your foot, in which case that's still a save. You've still made a really good save. But the fact that it was totally under control, and actually made it look really easy. And like I said, it was, like I said, a great tournament for you. I'm glad that you learned something from it as well. I think that's really, really important, and trying to then make that really consistent. So it's been amazing talking to you. Talked about your time in America, which has been really interesting. I think also more and more hockey players from Europe are taking that path as well. And like I said, I think doing it for the right reasons is, from what you were saying as well, is really, really important, and going about it in the right way if that's the correct thing for them. Valuing strength and conditioning, probably more so than anything, understanding why, and making sure that you are as injury-free as possible as well. And it was genuinely really fascinating talking to you about the World Cup and that experience. And I bet you're gagging to get another tournament under your belt pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely, especially because like the last kind of international games I played were in January, and then it was the Olympic qualifiers before that in November. Whoa, I had to think about that again. So it's been a while, and like obviously we're set up for the Olympics this year, and got it that it's moved to next year. But like hockey is hockey; it'll come around. But yeah, I'm raring to go for another big tournament. They're always good fun, so they are, and set yourself up for success, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ayeisha, thank you so much for chatting with me, and hopefully we'll get you back on at some point soon. But good luck with the rest of lockdown, and like I said, hopefully we'll be back on the pitch soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, and hopefully everyone stays safe and keep washing your hands.
Right, you are. Thanks very much.
Cheers.